B12 and more zinc and more nutrients. And we know that the studies are pretty secure that a little that the phytates in plant foods bind zinc. So even though zinc is present on plant foods, we don't absorb it as well as we get it from animal products. So the question is, so we do better. So and there's numerous studies, the meta-analysis on all the studies available, scores of them, on brain size and cognitive impairment, shows that omega-3 index and intake of omega-3 is linked to larger and more functional brains in people living longer lives. Plus the fact that the omega-3 index being higher is linked to increased survival and longer lifespan and low levels of the risk factor for early life death and increased cancer death as well. Let's put that aside for a minute and say, okay, so why not just have some oysters or some scallops or some mussels or some crab once or twice a week to get the extra nutrients, the zinc and the B12 that we need? And the answer is, I don't know, might be okay. But the problem is that with the pollution of plastics in the ocean and nitrogen runoff, we know that these bottom feeders, and including lake fish and bottom feeders and small fish near the coast, filter a lot of water through them. And they accumulate high amounts of these compounds in their tissues. It's not just microplastics. It's particularly a compound called BMAA that's now found to be linked to ALS and PDS, Parkinson's dementia syndrome. You know what ALS is? Like Lou Gehrig's disease?
Yeah.
Very serious illness linked to people living around Chesapeake Bay and people living around inland lakes where they're eating lake fish with agricultural runoff. The point is that I'm making is that in today's society, we're making an educated guess that's pretty well supported in science that not using seafood as a source of zinc and DHA and B12, but it's too polluted, even in small amounts, is relatively dangerous. And it's safer to supplement conservatively with few of the nutrients that a plant-based diet doesn't have large amounts of, to duplicate what we would get if we ate a diet with a little bit of animal product. To take some B12 and to take a little extra zinc and to make sure omega-3 index is adequate and not use seafood for the source of those foods. So just to be clear, I'm saying now that the larger, more predatory fish have more toxic metals and BPAs and dioxin. The smaller fish we used to think were safe, like sardines and minnows, and that we could eat, we found are more toxic than we ever thought because they're eaten with the digestive tract intact and they're full of plastic. So even the fish on the continental shelf that are smaller, which have less heavy metals, are still dangerous to eat. And the bottom feeders, called bivalves, like scallops, mussels, clams, and oysters, are the most dangerous because they filter so much water through them and they just live there until their life, filtering water and taking out the toxins, but they have the highest amount of BMA and these neurotoxins that damage the brain and can cause dementia or ALS. So we're not recommending people use. And so animal products are other animal products probably not as toxic, but more inherently cancer-causing than seafood would be if it wasn't toxic. So maybe that helps answer your question somewhat. You know. And most of these things really are not highly controversial because the studies are overwhelmingly pointing in the same direction. It's just people make them controversial for some reason. And a lot of these religious vegans don't want to accept the fact that you need to take an extra supplement to make a vegan diet better. It's good enough the way it is. They're very protective of the purity and value of natural foods, and that's probably okay for people who are living an average lifespan, but not if you want to push the envelope of human longevity and maintain mental and physical function to 100 years old. If we're going to increase the capacity of the human body to age slower and live longer, then at least let's keep our mental faculties and brain intact in our 90s. So what's the point of being in a nursing home or losing mental function for to live that long? So it's doing the right things now that sets us up for that longer life. That's why we don't drink when we're younger, or we don't smoke when we're younger. We're protecting our brain when we're older, because you don't feel the damage now. The drinking is going to cause the cancer, the alcohol is going to cause the cancer 30 years from now, and cause dementia from the brain cell destruction down the road when you're 85 or 90 years old, not now. So people, they don't see it happening to themselves, so they don't see that it's hurting themselves, they keep doing it. It's the same thing with why we take those extra nutrients. for the long-term benefits from the body. So if you're just going to live a normal lifespan of the average American, then it doesn't matter that much. You can dead at 75 and just do whatever you want. So people made the argument, some people have made the argument, well look, there's not more dementia in vegans than there is in non-vegans, so why would they need to take DHA for the brain? And the answer is, well, the cause of dementia in non-vegans and SAD eaters is not lack of omega-3 deficiency. It's eating junk food and cholesterol and atherosclerosis and lack of oxygen and nutrients, completely different cause of dementia. It's only among the healthy eater where B12 deficiency and omega-3 deficiency can be a major cause of the dementia that they're getting, and there shouldn't be any dementia in the population, in the healthy eating population. And the fact is that there isn't less dementia in vegans. There's actually more dementia in vegans in the 7-day meta study than there were in the non-vegans, primarily due to omega-3 deficiencies. And by the way, zinc deficiency also is a major cause of brain shrinkage and loss of neuroplasticity in later life. The combination of B12, zinc, and DHA is particularly and importantly brain protective for later life.